Starbucks closes 7 stores in San Francisco as it moves towards focusing on takeaway in crime-ridden downtown area. San Fran's got 52 stores, and it's closing 7 of them in the downtown financial district, but more importantly, in close proximity to the Tenderloin. What's going on there? Let's get into it. Here we go. How many times are we going to talk about the Tenderloin moving forward? Probably a bunch, right? So we got 7 stores. Company said the store closings are part of a larger evaluation of their portfolio. Let's see, these ones are getting robbed blind. We got a lot of 911 calls, and this isn't good. Shut her down. Let's go with the drive-through model. Because in the drive-through, you can't have the drug-addicted, whacked-out homeless people carrying a sword assault your customers in the inside of the store. Because there's no inside of the store. Now we're thinking. Just make it quick. Like the McDonald's on the Blade in downtown Seattle, where you scoot your credit card through the little hole. They hand you your food back through the little hole. It's like they're in the prison cell serving you food out on the street. But it makes sense, right? That way, the nut jobs out on the street can't get to the people inside the store. That's how bad that store has been over the years. 7 Starbucks stores in San Francisco's downtown area are planning to close as the city continues to deal with just nonsense, just shenanigans on the highest of levels, right? Coffee company on Tuesday announced the locations of the store, which will shutter effective October 22nd. That's pretty quick. Yep, we're closing her down, but don't worry. All of our employees will work at other locations that aren't impacted by the same crazy nut jobs running around San Fran, or they're in an area of town that isn't a ghost town like the financial district. Each year, as a standard course of business, we evaluate the store portfolio to determine where we can best meet our community and customers' needs. That is such nonsense. Such nonsense. You're covering your backside. We all know it. We know that this is what's going on. So, I mean, if you had a Starbucks store, say like right here, I'm sorry, I didn't clue you guys in on this. Here's the story. If you had a Starbucks store right here, streets of San Francisco, I mean, I don't see any problem with that. Do you? I mean, come on now. I mean, it's pretty normal. Maybe a homeless, drug addict here is roasting some marshmallows on his fire pit in the middle of the sidewalk. I don't see any issues going down this alley, this sidewalk with a wheelchair. Should be fine, right? In fact, here's a guy with a walker. I'm sure he can get through here, no problems. I mean, come on now. Here's the cars whizzing by. Yeah, here's a tent. I mean, that's literally, I see that in Seattle. We did a story about the 2 Targets closing in Seattle, did a walkthrough, and we showed a lot of what's going on. So you can check out that video if you haven't. It's not our normal podcast because it's out in the field, but the stores themselves were fine. It's the people in the community that are just robbing the stores blind and creating massive safety issues because they're whacked out on drugs, right? And they're just, and you can see some of the stuff going on in that video. I put like shenanigans and more shenanigans. One was some guys openly smoking fentanyl on the street. Another was a guy, he's sanding off a serial number on a bike. You got all kinds of crap in there. You look at these RVs and tents and you just go, all right, there's tomfoolery going on in there, and it's all crime. And, it's just, so here's a list of the streets of the Starbucks that are being closed down, and we'll get back to that. But what I wanted to show you was this video here. Let's play this video here. This is a good one. Okay. And it's not the video itself. It's what is not talked about.
7 locations in downtown San Francisco, and you see the locations on this map. 6 of them are within a few blocks of Market Street in the Financial
Sorry.
District or Union Square. One is on Van Ness Avenue at Bush Street. The coffee giant announced the stores will be closing by the end of the month. A Starbucks spokesperson says no employees will lose their jobs. They're all being offered the chance to transfer to another store. Foot traffic has been lower downtown since the pandemic.
Okay, so we are focusing on the downtown in this conversation. All right, so these three here qualify as downtown. This one, okay, I get it. It's on the periphery of the downtown. These two right here, I mean, here's your Tenderloin right in here, right? I mean, that one to me, it's like, okay. And this one also is impacted from Tenderloin right in here. So basically 4 of them have this very adverse external influence. And the 3 of them and even this one right here, you're going to have some crazy stuff going. All of them are going to be impacted by the nut jobs walking around, but specifically the 3 off to the east there are, those are in the financial district, and I will give them that one. The fact that you've got way less foot traffic. And the reason we know that is that we've got 30 million square feet of vacant office space in downtown San Fran. You've got a vacancy factor of 33.9%, a third of all office space, especially in the financial district. That's right in this area here. A third of it is vacant. So there's nobody walking around. And, effectively, I bet you it's over 50% vacancy rate. There's half the people that used to be there. So when people are there at their offices, they're coming in, a couple of days a week, maybe. So then you've got, you got 60% of your week where there's nobody there. And that's on the ones that account as occupied. The spaces that are flat vacant, there's nobody coming in there. So it's literally a ghost town in this area of San Francisco. And then just to the south and east, you got the Tenderloin right in here. And that's just a bunch of walking zombies. So between those two, Starbucks is saying, 7 out of 52, no more, no mas. But hey, we're going to open up 3 more. We're going to focus on how to better serve you and not get our asses sued for some nut job on clear meth. Now you know. Coming in with a samurai sword, talking to who knows who, and demanding a coffee. And then whacking somebody in the head. Because this kind of stuff, it's not good for the corporate image. Know what I mean? Neither is shutting down stores. But when you've got exposure to this, or you've got stores that are so clearly, hey, we don't need these stores anymore. And I think that's what you've got going on in the financial district there. Here's another good example. I mean, if you had a store, say just, half a block down from this, just sad excuse for allowing humanity to live on the sidewalk. I mean, what do you say there? That this is a good idea? I mean, what's up with the big, thing here? You got the big plastic tin and this guy's just barely hanging on. Is the tree holding him up, or is this? Who knows, right? But this does not say, come get your grande macchiato with 2 things of whatever. I don't drink coffee, but every now and then I am forced at the drive-thru to make an order. Not for me, but for somebody else. And it's the most excruciating process. Sean, tell him this. Like, I don't even know what that is. And I don't care. Just give me a breakfast sandwich. I want 2 pumps of this. And I want non-fat with a thing of this and two things. What? Oh, well. Okay. So here is more examples of what are we doing? Don't really know. Security guard standing here. He's got his gloves on, whatever. I mean, yeah. Here we're talking about, in early August, John Chachas, the owner of luxury furniture Gumps, paid for a full-page ad in the Sunday San Francisco. Here he is. And here's Gump. Super nice, right? Yeah. He took out a full-page ad and he said the ramifications of COVID policies advising people to abandon their offices are only beginning to be understood and felt. Equally devastating have been a litany of destructive San Francisco strategies, including allowing the homeless to occupy our sidewalks, use illegal drugs, harass the public, and defile the city's streets. That's an indictment. And you know what? You can't disregard that. It's totally 100% true. Parts of Seattle, same thing. Just San Fran. San Fran is always, or Seattle is always San Fran light or San Fran, 2.0. We don't have the amount of homeless here, but we're also a little bit smaller of a city. But also our mayor has been pretty pro. Hey, we're going to clear them out from downtown. Other parts of the city, that's what I think a lot of people don't get, is there's some really hardcore areas of Seattle still going on. But we kind of cleaned up the downtown. We just had the major initiative for the King County Regional Housing Authority in Seattle with our fearless leader, Mark Don't. That's what he goes by now in my book, because he don't work for the Regional Housing Authority anymore because he got fired. I'm sorry, them got fired. And, but one of their initiatives was to give, housing to all the people downtown. And it was supposed to come from Medicaid. Funding was supposed to come from Medicaid. Yeah, that whole program, it just went wildly sideways. Ended up, just the numbers were crazy. And the mayor basically said, nope, shut it down. We're firing Mark Don't. We're shutting down this initiative. We're regrouping because none of this is working. Yeah, we talk about the homeless industrial complex, and if it actually did its job, if all of these housing authorities did their job, they provided housing for everybody, what would they do? Their job would be done. So it's this self-fulfilling kind of deal where it's like, all right, millions more. And Mark Don't, literally, I know I've talked about this a bunch, but this is a really prime example of a West Coast liberal city just going down these crazy trains. And they have this leader who wasn't much of a leader. He didn't get much done. And in the end, he basically got let go. One of the things, the tipping point, was he asked for $11.5 billion, and his plan to use this $11.5 billion was described as a late night college student gathering with an idea on a napkin. So if that doesn't kind of tell you, maybe a little booze was involved. I don't know, maybe a little Washington's finest green was involved. Your options are limitless because college, anything goes, right? You still get up at 7 to get to that early class. And I feel a little hungover, but let's just go. And you can do that. But when I read that description, it was like a late night brainstorm of a college student with not much thought to reality. Let's ask for $11.5 billion. Well, that's how you get, these entities that are responsible for taking care of the homeless, removing homeless encampments, enforcement of city and state ordinances, and returning San Francisco to its rightful place as one of America's shining beacons of urban society. I would replace that of beacons of urban decay because it is right now a beacon of urban decay. But there are people like the CEO of Gumps who are like, no, this is nonsense. This is silliness. What are you doing? It's gotten so bad that we're going to watch one more. We got to watch one more here. This is pretty funny. Joe Rogan. I love that guy. You know what? People make fun of him. People make fun of his train by day, podcast by night. You would not want to take a roundhouse kick from this gentleman. This guy's you think he's just about babbling, those UFC fights. This guy hits.
San Francisco's the worst. San Francisco is like a failed state. San Francisco might as well be Libya. That place is wild.
Yeah.
People are just in the streets.
The crime is next level in San Francisco. It is
next level.
stupid.
Next
The
level.
guy's a comedian.
People are parking their cars and leaving their windows rolled down and
the trunk's
their
open.
hatch is open.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to get smashed.
It doesn't matter what time of day. And it doesn't matter who's around.
Doesn't matter who's around. No one's stopping anybody from doing anything. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's crazy how quick San Francisco. Because everyone's pulling out of there. Hotels are pulling out. Like supermarkets or chains like Walgreens is pulling out. They're like, what?
Ghost town, and they're not pumping the brakes on it.
I don't know what they do now at this point. What do they do? They don't have the resources to fix it now because they've up so bad for so long, and they would have to admit that all of their policies sucked.
And nobody's going to do it.
Nobody's gonna
That is so funny. All of their policies sucked. And that's true. It's so true. And we talk about that all the time from the standpoint of the city's going to have to admit, yeah, we've been reimagining and we've been rethinking safety in San Francisco, kind of like what Mayor London Breed is doing right now. Now, she's going to take some real whacks for saying what she's saying, but she's saying the right stuff. Whether it'll have impact, it probably won't have impact like she needs it to within her time in office, but she is going down some very controversial directions to get San Francisco kind of righted. And I don't care if I take heat because, for saying, hey, London Breed is doing some of the right things. Because she is literally, I don't know if she's going to get the backing from the city or other politicians because you got so many absolute nut jobs running San Francisco. But Joe Rogan is right. I mean, what are they going to do? Are you going to basically admit that all your policies were just whacked, just like Seattle? And we've got some just nut job people on our city council. And that's how you get a deal like CHOP going, right? Think about that. No police, no 911 service, no city service involved in a multi-block area in just east of the downtown core of Seattle. Yep, no cops. It's a cop-free zone. We're not doing that. Just anything goes. And it did. And then 2 kids were murdered. And then we had to shut it down because, it took 3 weeks to figure out maybe an autonomous zone by some just clear nut jobs. You got Black Lives Matter in there and you've got Antifa in there. Antifa kind of took over the movement and they're like, they threw out the occasional who lives matter, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. I said all lives, all windows matter. That's something that I've seen lately. And it's like, yeah, they do. Don't bash them. Black Lives Matter. I mean, the saying itself, yeah, the movement, I mean, that's a train wreck, right? Train wreck. So like Joe Rogan said, what are they going to do now? What are you going to do? Are you going to, go back and say everything was just a disaster? Well, London Breed is basically saying that. She's saying, you know what? We need to have more involuntary commitment of people into mental institutions and into treatment centers. You think? We need to prosecute people. Oh, you think? What happened to that whole equity and inclusion and, this whole thing of trying to balance all the scales of racism or perceived racism by just having this free for all? I don't think that's the solution either. I was reading a story about some guy who was like, yeah, we need to have annual reparations of $2 trillion. And it was for I can't remember how many years. It was like, okay, the United States budget is XYZ, and you are talking about adding how many trillion to the economy? I'm sure this will work out. It was more just woke ideology that you can't really implement. You don't have the budget for it. Not going to happen. And if you did, I mean, it would just be absolutely wild. Like the repercussions for decriminalizing drugs and basically not prosecuting people, creating these lawless societies, which is what you're seeing in San Fran. And then you go down this idea of, well, let's shut down the economy because we got a little flu going on, and now more people are dying from fentanyl than they are from anything else in the age demographic of 18 to 45. It's the number one killer of people. Coming right up through that southern border. Welcome to America. Come on in. Some crazy stuff going on. And so I wanted to play that little Joe Rogan, because when Joe Rogan is talking about it with Gabriel Iglesias, a comedian, I believe, or actor. He's an actor, right? Is he also a comedian? I thought he was. When Joe Rogan breaks it down, you're like, okay, he gets it. And, Joe lived in Los Angeles, and one of the reasons he moved from Los Angeles down to Austin, that was an interesting choice, but he is kind of a libertarian, right? He won't come out and say votes Republican, but he does because he's reasonable. He certainly won't he won't vote for Biden or that direction. I think he probably has in the past, as have a lot of people, but he's come right out and said, no, if the election were today, I'd vote for Trump. And he didn't, he's not a huge Trumper, and he doesn't go down those roads, as I don't either. But if I have to make a choice, you betcha I'm going to vote for Trump all day long, because Biden, what's that guy doing? And Biden is kind of an extension. He went after the far left, and that's why you've got this open border, and basically said, hey, open invitation. And that's why you've got literally millions of people coming from all over the world. Right now it's Venezuela, just dumping out all its citizens, and they're making this long trek to the United States. And you've got the mayors of Chicago, and you got the mayor of New York City basically going down to Mexico, down to the border to check out what's going on, because they've got so many illegals being, bused to their states and their cities that they're like, we can't handle it anymore. And then Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, he's trying to get their superior court to overturn the ruling, which is, you got to be able to offer fair housing for everybody. It's the law. You got to be able to offer a roof over everybody's head. And so what that's done is it's put this immense pressure on their social service systems, and to the point where you see videos of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, lines around the block of illegal immigrants waiting to get a room there. And what you've got going on is, remember in, and I know you know this reference, in Game of Thrones, winter is coming, which was that, reference to this evil, winter is coming with the ice guys. That was a great show. But winter is physically, literally coming here in North America. And I don't know if you know, but Chicago and New York City are not exactly Miami. So they're worried about having a whole bunch of, tough weather situations with just thousands of people that they would normally be taking care of their own residents. But because they're these self-proclaimed, sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, they've pivoted 180 degrees from, bring them all in, to, oh my gosh, we don't have enough resources. What were we thinking? More progressive policy that's just gone wildly sideways. We are seeing it unfold in front of us just time and time and time again. And yet the constituents of these areas just keep voting in the same direction. It's mind-boggling to me. But the way I look at it is, how do you think I look at it? Yep, you got it. Podcasts for days, weeks, months, years. This stuff isn't going to fix itself overnight. Like Rogan said, what are they going to do? They don't have the resources to fix it. They can barely keep the system going. Oakland can't keep the system going at all. Their system is 100% broke. Washington, D.C., broken. I just got through talking about a CVS store there that gets robbed 3 times a day by a mob of 45 plus teenagers. They come in before school. I'm surprised they're even going to school. They come in before school, clear the store out. After school, make another run. And then sometimes late at night, they need donuts and a protein drink. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but they're robbing the store blind to the point where the store is just literally looks like it's going to close, but it's not. Yet. All right. That's it for me on this one. But if you go to San Francisco, there's not a lot of folks here on News for Reasonable People going to San Fran by choice. But if you think you're going to stop in at your regular Starbucks shop, you might want to check that Google map and see if it's open. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.